Hello, everybody, and welcome to Barbados for what is set to be a fantastic time over the next few weeks on SEN Test Cricket. I'm Adam White. I'm joined by Bharat Sundaresan right next to me, high up in the stands here at Kensington Oval. Bharat, I was going to say welcome to your home away from home, but it's really your home away from home because you're now Australian. Right. So this has gone down the pecking order a little bit. But what a beautiful place.
Yeah, you just said it in your intro there, Whitey. We're going to have a good time. And you always have a good time in Barbados. You know, you're here on island time. And that's something I tell everyone who comes here for the first time. You just have to slow yourself down. Even the way you speak and the way you walk and just the way you are, Whitey. That's the only way you can fit into Barbados, because in Barbados, like they say, you're always chilling.
Okay, very good. This is the new bowl for Cobram Estate Premium Australian Extra Virgin Olive Oil. And for Australian made by local, we're counting down to the first test between the West Indies and Australia, which you'll hear tonight into tomorrow morning on SEN. We'll go through all the news. We'll go through, Brett, your thoughts on both the Australian team and also the West Indian team. But we're going to get straight into our first ball of the new ball, and it is actually going to be what is this place all about here in Barbados? For those that have never been here before and have only, like me, watched it on television, you've been here so many times. The Australians haven't been here for 10 years playing in a test match. They've been here at other times. But talk to us about the significance of this place, because it is so rich in cricket history.
This is the home of West Indian cricket in any way. So the legacy, and just look where we are sat right now, Whitey. We're facing the Worrell Weeks Walcott stand, the 3 Ws, and we'll start with them. All 3 of them, probably 3 of the greatest cricketers to ever play the sport, were born within a kilometre of where we are sat. All 3. Let's start with that, right? And then to their left, and we'll come back to the main man. Just 2 stands down is the Hall and Griffith stand. West Hall, Charlie Griffith, the Tide Test, and the links between West Indies cricket and Australian cricket go back such a long way. And speaking of the 3 Ws, we will be playing for the Sir Frank Worrell Trophy as well. And then more familiar names for people of more recent generations, Greenwich and Haynes. Need no introduction to Australians or any cricket fans around the world. And we are sat in the Cozier Media Centre. So obviously, my favorite commentator of all time was Tony Cozier, and I was fortunate that towards the end of his life, I was a very dear friend of his, or he was a dear friend of mine, so I got to know him really well. But there's 3 generations of Coziers here, so this media box is named after them, and obviously the players will be sat in the Garfield Sobers Pavilion. So it's just amazing what this represents, Kensington Oval, and the memories as well. I mean, this is where historically, like we speak about the Gabba in Australia, but this is where you would get that hostile welcome, whoever you were. When you came to the Caribbean, once you were done having your rum punches and making the most of the sea and the sand, then the music would really start, the chin music, and that would happen right here at the Kensington Oval. Things have changed, yes, but Barbados really hasn't changed. I mean, I've been coming here for the last 15 years, and the stadium hasn't changed much. The people haven't changed much. You walk around the beaches, you walk around Bridgetown, which is a beautiful old colonial town. Nothing's really changed. And in a way, that's what it is. When you come to this part of the world, it almost feels like you are in some ways stepping back in time, where time is to be enjoyed, life is to be had fun around or fun with, and you do work on the side.
It is incredible, even just driving in here to see the statues at the front, just to remind you straight away of the significance of cricket and Barbados. And you've gone through them, but again, Greenwich, Haynes, Hall, Griffith, Sobers, Weeks, Walcott. That's just in front of us.
Yeah, and the Joel Garner end. And
yes,
we
Joel Garner end.
Malcolm Marshall end.
Yeah, well, there you go. That's almost the full set, isn't it, really? Yeah. And the ground itself, it's not a particularly big ground. Particularly what was quite noticeable to me is that it's not particularly long straight, but the actual surface looks really nice. It's been cut nice and short. I was able to walk on it a short time ago. It really is all set up for what could be, because we don't really know, and we'll get to that shortly. It could be a really interesting test series.
I really think so. And West Indies, especially in the last 10 years or so, they've had their issues away from home. They've played some very good test cricket at home, and they've had some famous wins. They've obviously had that long run, not losing to England, not losing a CD still recently as well. And they have some seasoned cricketers in their mix who we will talk about in detail later, who play good test cricket on home soil. These are very different conditions to what we grew up on back in the 80s and 90s, where, like I said, Kensington Oval would have that beautiful shiny surface and the ball would bounce, and it was quite intimidating if you were an overseas batter. Not anymore. The pitch is covered now, but I've been here all day long, and it to me it looks almost like a wicket from somewhere in central India. It's very subcontinental. It's got the dirty beige color, if that makes sense. So it's quite devoid of pace these days. So it'll be different to what what we dreamt of cricket in Barbados being. But there will be atmosphere. The one thing I have learned is the ticket prices for locals are much cheaper. I think 10% of what it is if you are an Australian tourist. I think that's not unfair at all.
Yep.
And I've met a bunch of Australian fans who've travelled all this way who feel that it is a bit unfair. I think it's only fair because we want more locals in. The best part, though, is children under 16 are free. So a lot of school kids will be around.
And before we get on to the machinations of the match ahead of us, just the health of cricket in Barbados. Won't worry about the West Indies, but here specifically in Barbados, considering it's such a, as I said, has such a rich history. Bryce McGain and I, when we arrived this afternoon, speaking to a few locals, they're very much still very passionate about their cricket, and they know that it's on, and they're all excited about a young West Indian team taking on the might of the Australians. But does it still have that same excitement that it did?
It's got more cynicism, sadly, than excitement when it comes to Test cricket. If you meet anyone, and I do wonder what age group these people were who you met, anyone over the age of 50 or so, or 40 or 45 or so, you'd think they still kind of hold on dearly to what was and hope that there might be a second coming. I guess it's the way it's been so long that they feel like it's not going to happen in their lifetime or probably never. So I think the big difference is, just speaking to even Shea Hope the other day, I interviewed him. I think what he said was, with T20 cricket or even T10 cricket, people just flock the stadiums. When it comes to Test cricket, there is this responsibility on the West Indian team to play a form of Test cricket and win to bring people in. I think that's been the big change. And if you speak to anyone and under the age of 25, they're into their CPL. So whenever Barbados, whatever they call now, they were Tridents, and then they became the Royals. When they play, it's a great atmosphere. But Test matches haven't really been getting massive crowds. But hey, all of that can change if Shamar Joseph can do what he did at the Gabba all those months ago.
Absolutely. And as I said, it's been 10 years since the Australians have been here, so there's a bit of extra excitement around that as well. It is the new ball for Cobram Estate and also for Australian Made. You're with Adam White and also Bharat Sundaresan. Let's get into the second ball, which will also be the news update for Belgravia Apparel for quality New Balance cricket teamwear. Belgravia Apparel, in partnership with New Balance, supporting community cricket with high-quality teamwear. Both the Australians and the West Indians have named their final 11, and from an Australian point of view, importantly today, I know you've spoken to Pat Cummins. We'll hear from Pat a little bit later on in the program. He's also... We've known the team for a while, probably, but we also now got the order. Yeah,
we do. And I'm largely unsurprised by... or not surprised by the fact that they've stuck with Cam Green at number 3. And I think to break it down, you have to go back to what happened last year. At Cam Green, when Steve Smith said, no, I think Cam Green is our long-term number 4, so I'm ready to give up my spot and open the batting. He did that, or took that decision, with the belief that he probably might play for the next few years as an opener and end his career as an opener, allowing Cam Green to just have that long run at number 4. Obviously, that didn't work out. And then Steve Smith drops back to number 4. Cam Green gets injured. And then Smith is now gone on this crazy run of, 400s in 6 games, and looked good for 100 at Lord's as well 10 days ago. So he's not giving up number 4. So now that Cam Green is back and they played him at number 3 at Lords, yes, it didn't work out against Rabada. Both times, poor guy, he walked out. The clouds were, there was cloud cover over Lords and Rabada was breathing fire. So it makes sense for them to just stick with Green at 3 rather than just keep shunting him up and down. So give him 4 now and then Smith comes back, push him back to 3. So they've said, okay, we give you a long run at 3 because it's still in the top 4, and thereby just allowing Josh Inglis to come in and be a direct replacement for Steve Smith at number 4. The only thing I thought could happen, and Whitey, I would love to get your view on it, is if just for this test match, or if say Steve Smith isn't fit for the next one, if they would have been better off having Travis Head at 4, just because he's the senior batter in the ranks now.
Yeah, see, I look at it slightly differently in the sense that I reckon the selectors would be wanting to make as less disruption to the team as possible.
Yeah.
So if you had Head go up at 4 and then have Inglis at 5, Green at 3, everyone's kind of shuffling around, Constas opening the batting. Yeah. I kind of feel like at least there's a bit of dependability and sameness about Head. He's our 5, and he'll be there for as long as he wants to be at 5, I would say.
Correct.
I think the interest is very much around how long Steve Smith plays Test cricket. Because if he feels like he can go around for 2 or 3 years, well then, yes, let's keep Cameron Green at 3. But my feeling is that Steve Smith won't play a lot more and Green will end up going to 4.
Yep.
But before we move on, I think the interesting thing for me with Cam Green has been there's almost a feeling, a change in commentary from some that, Cameron Green, is he good enough to bat at 3? Is he good enough to bat at 4? I kind of feel like a combination of him being injured, but also because he can't bowl, he's only in the team as a batsman, that he's being treated maybe a little bit differently. And I don't think that's necessarily fair, because if you look at what he's done in first-class cricket now over a long period of time, his batting average, and I know it's not just about average, but it stacks up with anyone at first-class level, and he does it in the top 4.
And he's just coming off this dream run for Gloucestershire. I know county cricket, you take what you want to from it, but obviously it's not the Sheffield Shield. That's real cricket.
That's proper cricket.
That's proper first-class cricket. But just the fact that he scored runs, yes, that was at number 5. All his hundreds were at number 5. No, I think there's no questioning Cam Green's credentials and what he has to offer, or what he will have to offer for Australian cricket. Purely as a batter, I mean, yes, when he's able to bowl again and he is going through the long routines that will get him back to bowling, hopefully by the end of the year during the Ashes. You'll see him at every training session bowl, not at full tilt, but at least he's running in and rolling his arm over. That's increasing more and more. But just purely as a batter, he will have a lot to offer for Australia. I mean, he is the future. He will be the big thing in more ways than one.
The unicorn.
Exactly. So, in fact, I'm quite chuffed that he gets number 3. I know, he was talked up as number 4 and maybe he will drop down. But just like you and I watch a lot of Shield cricket. I know he hasn't batted 3 very often, but his technique, I think, is suited into that top.
Absolutely.
I even thought he could have opened, honestly, when
I agree with you on that too.
Smith went up. So I think number 3 could be the right position for him. And whenever Steve Smith's time comes, whether they bring Manas back or whether they find another number 4 at that point, we'll wait and watch. But I think I can see Cam Green as a long-term number 3.
Well, the reality is he's got the opportunity to make it his own.
Yeah.
So he can stay there for the rest of his career if he does it well. The one thing I'll say to people that are going to be listening to us and watching the cricket over the next few weeks, and this probably goes longer than this as well, is that we've actually got to be very patient as cricket fans around the makeup of this team and not just continually want change just because it's not going so well, because there's going to be so many inexperienced players that are going to be getting opportunities over the next period of time. It's not like it was.
Yeah.
So it's going to be such a very different looking team watching them play through this test series. But I think we've got to be patient, and we're not very good at that.
No, not at all. I think you can generalize that across society, right?
Well,
we want things to happen very quickly.
But if Sam Constas doesn't get 100 in the first 2 tests, he's got to be out.
No,
Cameron Green failed, double failure. Oh, he's not good enough. He's got to be out.
If he's not bowling, he shouldn't play.
That's
I heard
right.
that as well. I think we have become more reactionary for sure. It's the growth of social media, and we can spend 15 hours talking about that. But I think the other thing to recognize is, Australia will go into this test match with those 4, right? Hazelwood, Cummins, Stark, and Lyon. But when you look at the top 6, this is a team which, if it's not transitioning already, is on the cusp of a major transition, not just a basic transition. Because Usman Khawaja, whatever happens from here, yes, he gets to the Ashes. It would be unlikely. I mean, maybe he might continue, but it will be unlikely if he continues after the Sydney Test, right? He gets the grand farewell, even though for now he's very clear that he doesn't want the end date. Steve Smith, like you said, maybe 12 months. Maybe shorter, maybe slightly longer. We never know. He's already said he wants to play the Olympics in 2028, but he's taking every test series one at a time.
He might have to play less test cricket to focus on the short-form cricket to get to the Olympics.
Yeah, that's a very valid point as well, especially because Australia are going to play a lot of test cricket starting next September or next October. So considering those two big or senior players gone, even if say Manas comes back, it's still a very young batting lineup then. So we just have to get used to it, and every test team goes through that, which is where I think the Manas thing is significant. The fact that at 30, someone averaging 46 has lost his place in the side, because it also means that the door will always stay open for him, because he should ideally have been the batter that the future should have been built around for Test cricket. And I think they still look at him as that batter.
That's why they stay with him for longer than they would have stayed with others, for that exact reason.
Correct. Yeah. So I think patience will be very, very, very important. And and look, the patience of fans and commentators will be tested, especially during the Ashes. Now that England are coming off another Bazball win.
Exactly right. Adam White and Bharat Sundaresan with you from Kensington Oval in Barbados on the eve of Test cricket, Australia versus the West Indies tomorrow. I should say the West Indies versus Australia, because West Indies are the home team. So that news update for Belgravia Apparel again is, so the top 6 for Australia will be Constas opening the batting with Khawaja, Green at 3, and then we've got Inglis at 4, Head at 5, and then rounding out the top 6 will be Webster. So which takes us to the third ball, which is the bowling mix for this match, and obviously for the series as well. It did feel in the build-up to this match that Kuhnemann was going to play, particularly with some of the really strong words of positivity coming out of the mouth of Nathan Lyon, but they've decided to go with pretty much, or it is, the bowling lineup that we saw at Lord's.
And just even having a couple of chats with Matt Kuhnemann on the sidelines of the WTC final at Lord's, he seemed very confident that he might play, maybe starting this test match. But I think they finally got to look at the surface Whitey yesterday, and one thing you guys will get used to now that you're here is with the weather. Rarely does it just rain and rain and rain. There will be these short bursts of rain, and they come from nowhere. So it'll be sunny as it is now. There might be some cloud cover, and it just rains while the sun is still shining, and then it just goes away. So that happened a couple of days ago when Australia tried training and also tried sneaking a look at the pitch. It wasn't to be. So yesterday when they came and they saw the pitch, yes, it was dry, but it looked, like I said earlier, it's dirty and it's got that beige color. But would you risk playing the second spinner when this is not Sri Lanka? And I think a lot of people conflate subcontinental conditions with Caribbean conditions, or conditions in the Caribbean. They're very different. There's a reason why West Indies even now have more success with their fast bowlers than their spinners, especially in Barbados and Jamaica when we get there. That'll be a pink ball test. So it's more about wear and tear with this pitch. So it won't be until day 4 or so when spin really, if it does, come into force. And the kind of spinner Kuhnemann is, to go in with just say Cummins and Stark, or just Cummins and Hazelwood, with the amount of Test cricket ahead for Australia, would have been a risk. I'm not surprised that they've gone for what some might consider a conservative route and just having stuck with what worked for them. But yeah, I think it makes sense. And you have Webster and Head, pretty useful off spinners anyway.
And Mitchell Johnson sort of stoked the fire a little bit in the newspapers over in WA, so saying, almost putting it on the bowlers a bit, well, which, he was part of that bowling cartel there for quite some time. I felt like almost the selectors, and I know they didn't do this, but it was almost like they said, well, bugger you, Mitchell Johnson. We're going to prove that the bowling group will stay to that. We're not going to change it, even though they didn't get that result they wanted against South Africa at Lord's. So they've got the same bowling four. We're looking out over the ground at the moment. I'm just a bit concerned about security. It feels like anyone can just sort of walk in and walk onto the ground, perhaps.
In Barbados, it's all about chilling. And just to emphasize that, There are some parts of the Caribbean where, safety can be a concern. I mean, we will go to Kingston, Jamaica, and I will be guiding you guys through protocols that you need to follow, not just at the ground, but around Kingston. But Barbados takes a lot of pride in safety and just people being allowed to go wherever they want. And yeah, I mean, I don't think you have an accreditation card to be here.
No,
Wadi.
I don't. I just walked
Just
out
sauntered
into the
yeah.
outfield before. So, yes, it's going to be... I'm very much out of my comfort zone here, Bharat. There's no doubt about that. So it's going to be very interesting indeed for me. It is the new bowl for Cobram Estate Premium Australian Extra Virgin Olive Oil and for Australia made. Buy local, we're counting down to the first test between the West Indies and Australia, which you will hear tonight into tomorrow morning on SEN. It is every ball live of the Sir Frank Worrell Trophy right here in the West Indies. Adam Collins will be leading the team along with myself and Bharat, Bryce McGain and Andrew Mason. We have got some local involvement as well. If we can't call you quite local. So we're looking forward to your company from 11:30 Australian Eastern Standard Time tonight. A break and back with more right after this. Yes, welcome back to the new ball for Cobram Estate Premium Australian Extra Virgin Olive Oil and for Australia made. Buy local, we're counting down to the first test between the West Indies and Australia, which you'll hear tonight into tomorrow morning on SEN. I'm Adam White and I'm joined by Bharat Sundaresan and we're up to the fourth ball. Does Australia need to walk away, Bharat, from this series with a very clear understanding of their plan of attack for the Ashes?
Yes and no. I guess it's more about putting some miles into the likes of Sam Constis and Josh Inglis for sure. And just on Sammy Constis, I've always liked Sam Constis, but just in the last week or so, just in our interactions, firstly, though he hasn't heeded my hair advice a couple of times, so he's on. He knows this, third strike and that's it. I'll disown him in terms of just being his hair mentor. So he's gone against my orders and kind of chopped it off. Like, me, Wadi, with men who grow their hair, you either commit or you don't. You can't play the halfway game. So, no, but it's been wonderful getting to know him off the field. And there's just something special about this kid.
There is. He's got presence for someone so young, Bharat.
Absolutely, yeah. And just the way he interacts with anyone he meets, and that's the thing. Just speaking to him at times, you forget that he is 19 and he's got that warmth to him. So I personally, I'm going to be slightly biased when we get to see him bat and hope that he gets a lot of success. And similarly with Josh Inglis as well. We were there in Sri Lanka. Bryce McGain was there to watch him make that Test 100, what it meant to him, his parents, and the way he batted in very alien conditions, especially when it comes to red ball cricket on debut. So he's been itching to get back in. Sam Constis has been desperate to just get a bat firstly, but also to play Test cricket. So he seems ready in this second go round for him Test cricket. I think that's what will be very important here. But because the conditions are so different to what we generally to what we'll find in Australia, but especially in the last 2-3 years where they've been seamer friendly and the ball does a lot, they'll get it's more about getting a Constis into that Perth test with 5 tests under his wings. And if, say, Constis or if Inglis is going to be part of that middle order, get 5 tests under, in his resume as well before he faces the English attack. So I think it'll be more about that than really we can't take too much away from these conditions, especially the first 2 tests. Kingston, we don't know what it'll be like, especially with the pink ball test. That stadium has never hosted a day-night test, if I'm not wrong. So, I think it'll be more about that than getting the more test experience into these guys than really taking these performances and deciding at the end of the Jamaica test on what that playing 11 will be for the Perth test, considering there'll be quite a few Shield games played before that. And the fact that this selection committee has been, very cognizant of what's happened in Shield cricket. Bo Webster, Nathan McSweeney, to name just a couple, and Sam Constis, who have come through Shield cricket, English as well. So I think there will be a lot of water under the bridge before we get to Perth. But this will be an important series, though, for those involved.
Those questions have been asked of me as well as what relevance will this series have on the Ashes, and I think. To your point a little bit, it's more about seeing how these young men cope with the pressure of playing for their country. Because some can't do it. Some are brilliant players at the level below, but the pressure of expectation, the extra focus, they can't quite replicate what they do at the lower level, even though at times the standard isn't as high as what you'll see in Shield cricket. So I think for Constas particularly, it's something that he's got to deal with. Cam Green's still got a little bit of work to do. We've spoken earlier about Cam, but I kind of feel like that's the biggest thing, is to see whether they can really sort of, while there is an expectation that they'll do well against the West Indies, go out and prove it.
Yeah.
Because I think that you're right, there's this big bank of Sheffield Shield matches before the Ashes start, because the Ashes starts a little bit later. That's clearly going to be more relevance in relation to the conditions they're going to face. And probably the airspeed of some of the Australian bowlers that are going around in Shield cricket at the moment. But yeah, if Constas or Green or Inglis come out here and just dominate this series, it's going to be hard to leave them out come the Ashes.
Yeah, very much so. And I think they'll be hoping, the selectors, and especially with Constas, you'd want, since David Warner's retirement, how many opening combinations has Australia had, right? I mean, even if you leave the Sri Lanka series aside, because that's very condition-based, and Travis Head opened the test match. Usman Khawaja started with Nathan McSweeney against India, and then all of a sudden you had Sam Constas come in, and then he was opening with Manas Labuschagne at Lords. So they'll want the Khawaja-Constas thing to at least last 8 test matches from this point on. And then at the end of the Ashes, like I said earlier, with Usman Khawaja, who knows how long he has left. So that by the end of those 8 test matches, Constas almost, even though he would have played just 10 test matches by then, if my math is right, would still kind of be the established opener, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
If it works out the way we think it'll work out, or they go looking for someone else. I think similarly with Cam Green at number 3. The Inglis is an interesting one, because what happens when Steve Smith comes back? The way Inglis has been batting across formats in the last couple of years, you would want him in that middle order, but that will depend on whether Cam Green bowls or not, because Bo Webster has done nothing wrong so far to even the first innings at Lords. Opportunity he's got, he's made the most of it. So there's no reason for anyone to look at him and say, even just automatically say, oh, the day Cam Green bowls, you have to get rid of Webster. So that's an interesting mix for me with Inglis, Webster and Green, and how they're going to use them once Steve Smith comes back.
Yeah, it's a good point. See, I would have played Inglis instead of Webster in the World Test Championship final at number 6, because I didn't think they needed Webster's bowling at Lords. But as you said, while they probably didn't need Webster's bowling at Lords, they needed his batting, and he proved that with how well he batted in that first inning. So I just think that there is so much water that needs to flow under the bridge between the start of this Test series and then going into the first Test match in the Ashes. So much cricket needs to be played, and I would love to be a first-class batsman in Australia at the moment, because I know that if I can get on a hot run, I can be playing cricket for Australia pretty quickly.
And I can name a couple of players that just jump out. If you were Jason Sangha, right? Especially if you're Jason Sangha, 12 months ago you didn't know where your career was headed.
Curtis Patterson put him in the same category.
Exactly, and both of them, right? And then 12 months on, and Jason Sangha in particular goes to Adelaide, and good things happen to good people who move to Adelaide. It's been proven, so wherever you come from. And Jason Sangha had long hair as well when he moved to Adelaide, then he chopped it off, but that's, obviously... I'm not very chuffed with, but anyway, we'll leave that for another day. And all of a sudden, the way he's batted, and the fact that he got big runs in the Sheffield Shield final, in a game that was watched by so many, and covered on SEN by us, I think suddenly he's taken him from being on the outer to, for now, in the Australia A squad. But if Steve Smith misses out and they want to call for a replacement batter, and that'll be a great debate to have once we are on air tomorrow. Do you go Curtis Patterson? Do you go Jason Sangha? And there's a Nathan McSweeney's around as well.
And the other one that has sort of come out of the wilderness again is Jake Weatherald.
Yeah.
As someone that has gone to another state, he's gone away from South Australia, but I mean his numbers were extraordinary last Sheffield Shield season as well. So there's 3 that kind of could have easily thought their first-class careers were finished 12 months ago, and now thinking about potentially playing Test cricket again. It's amazing how it's changed for so many. And as I said, this is why I think it's a great time to be a batsman in first-class cricket, because there are going to be opportunities, and that can't be debated, because we know that Smith and Khawaja are coming towards the end. So irrespective of the players that are just coming into the team at the moment or are vulnerable, there's going to be 2 top-order spots there for somebody.
Yeah,
for two people.
For two people, very much so. And you're right. I mean, it's a great time to be a batter, but is it a great time to be a fast bowler? And I think that is an issue we have to broach as we go ahead, right? Like the fact that, I'm very pumped that Sean Abbott is here. He spoke beautifully a couple of days ago at Windward Cricket Club down the coast where Australia had a training session. The fact that they had Brendan Doggett, who bowled so well in the Shield season at 31 in the reserves. Scott Boland is 36. And age does matter. I know Scott Boland looks fitter than ever. Yeah. But the fact that there's nobody in their 20s coming through, or those coming through don't seem to stay on the ground for too long, that could become an issue going forward. And I think that will be something maybe we're not debating right now because we're so focused on the batting. But moving forward through this series, through the summer, I think it'll come to the fore.
Yeah, it's a really interesting time for cricket, full stop, isn't it? I'm just waiting for Cal Vidler. He's my man.
Yeah,
he could become big pretty quick. Because he's already quick.
Yeah.
Oh,
he's skillful as well.
Oh my God!
Listen to us two shield nuffers.
Yeah, I know. We probably need to take a break so we can just sort of calm down a little bit. Join us for every ball of the Sir Frank Worrell Trophy right here from the West Indies. Adam Collins leading the team along with myself, Bharat, Bryce McGain, Andrew Mason. We're looking forward to your company from 11:30 Australian Eastern Standard Time tonight, right throughout the night, and then all the post-game activity as well. We'll be back with more on the new ball right after this. It is the new ball for Cobram Estate with Adam White and Bharat Sundaresan. Premium Australian extra virgin olive oil is Cobram Estate, and also for Australia Made, buy local. We're counting down to the first test between the West Indies and Australia, which you will hear tonight into tomorrow morning on SEN. 2 balls to come, plus a bonus. We've got Bharat having a chat to Pat Cummins as well on the eve of the test series. You've kind of talked about it before, about the conditions here in the West Indies. But talk to us a little bit more about the weather and how quickly it can change, because we're looking out over the ground at the moment. There are lights here. So this would be really late in a day's play when we're talking about this at the moment. It's probably nearly stumps. But it's been this sort of murky type light for quite a while. Is that the sort of, we'll expect that, where it's not going to rain, but light might be an issue?
As we get deeper, so it's a 10 a.m. start for us. So even with the extra half hour, we would finish at 5:30.
Yeah.
But it does go dark very quickly. It's 5:40 p.m. now. You'll see, Whitey, how quickly, once the sun sets around 6 o'clock, it's not like England or Australia where light still hangs around. It's more like the subcontinent where it just goes to pitch darkness very quickly. So I think the forecast looks okay. But there will be rain interruptions. I think that's just part of Barbados or cricket in the Caribbean in June. But won't be long delays, so it'll give us enough opportunity to meet a lot of legends. So they had the 50th anniversary for the 75 World Cup win a few days ago. So tomorrow in attendance, and calm yourself down because all your heroes will be there, from Clive Lloyd and Alvin Kalicharan and Wes Hall and maybe even Gary Sobers, and they're all going to be there in attendance. We might even get a couple of them in our box, I've been told. So yeah, I mean, so there will be a lot of, not a lot, but there'll be weather around. But in terms of light, it stays pretty bright during the day. But once it goes very quickly. And I don't think these lights will have any effect.
No. You know that Garfield Sobers has been to my house?
All right.
Yeah. There's quite a funny story about this. I don't know whether we've really got time to tell it now. We might. Well, we'll wait for the test match. But Colo will be particularly emotional about the story. He gets emotional about a lot of things, but he'll be very emotional about the story that I'll share. All right, the final ball. Don't forget Pat Cummins a little bit later on in the program as well. But the West Indies themselves. Now, I'm imagining it might even test you, this team, and how well you know it, because we've got a new captain, a relatively new coach as well, a captain that hasn't even been in the team, really, over the last couple of years. some youngsters. We've known a little bit about some of their younger bowlers, but just an overall feel of this West Indian team, Brad?
I think a mix of names that we are aware of, very different to the team that came last year, where 80% of even Craig Brathwaite was meeting them for the first time as captain, including Shamar Joseph. So some regulars are back. Craig Brathwaite playing his 99th test. John Campbell, who for a while was a regular opener in one-day cricket and test cricket, was lost, and he's come back. At number 3, they'll have this guy called Casey Carty, who played one-day cricket in Australia last year. I mean, his interesting backstory comes from St. Martin, so the Dutch-speaking, or one of the Dutch Caribbean islands, probably the first to come through the ranks. He's a stylish batter. He's made a Test 100 recently. And then you're going to have... I've completely had a brain fade there, but you have Roston Chase as captain, obviously at 5. Shea Hope is the big story.
So where will he bat?
So he's going to bat 6 and keep wickets, which kind of tells you that they've gone out. And I just finished writing my Shea Hope piece. I interviewed him the other day. So he played his last test in November 2021 and said he was dropped. His average had dropped to 25. And he said, I'm going to focus on T20 cricket. He's now T20 captain for West Indies, having been on the outer of that format. He obviously is one of the best one-day batters of this generation. But he's only played 4 first-class matches, Whitey, between November 2021 and now. So they picked him. It's a very Darren Sammy kind of pick. You know, he's a new coach who I interviewed for SEN a couple of days ago. And so he's just gone out there and said, Shea, we need you in this team to shore up our batting. And they believe that he still has a future in Test cricket at 31. So he's come back. So I think that's interesting. Justin Greaves, who we saw make his debut last year in Adelaide, so he then plays as an all-rounder. I think so. That must have been the deal. All right, Hope, you come back. You have to keep wickets, even though you've never done it in Test cricket, which is a big ask if you think about it.
It's a very big ask.
It's a huge ask, especially if, say, Australia bat deep, and then Hope has to bat. The bowlers, I think more or less we used to. Jomel Warrican, who played 10 years ago against Australia here, left-arm spinner, another one from Barbados, who hails from the same school as Brathwaite and Roston Chase and Jason Holder. No, not Jason Holder, Carlos Brathwaite and those guys, and Rihanna, obviously, who used to live just down the road, by the way, Whitey. And so Jomel Warrican will be the spinner. Alzari Joseph, who we know well, Shamar, our hero, and Jayden Seals, I think, is going to be someone who was on that tour of Australia. But
he was.
Yeah, but I think he's very useful and skillful with the Duke's ball, which is slightly different here in the Caribbean. Brighter red in color, does a little more when it's new. So I think he'll be the bowler to watch out for, in my opinion. But it's a team where, again, there's a lot of potential. Oh, yeah, the one I missed out was Brandon King at number 4. So they brought him in, which kind of also tells me that what Sammy has been speaking about as coach, a new brand of Test cricket, because Brandon King is a T20 batter. I mean, he's been playing T20 cricket all around the world, T20, T10 in America and all over the place. And he's been a regular for West Indies in that format for the last 3 or 4 years. So they've gone to him and given him a Test cap. So he'll be making his Test debut tomorrow. So maybe that means that they're going to play not so much baseball, but exciting cricket or positive cricket. So I think it adds to the intrigue around what we are to expect. It wasn't so different to what we had last year in Adelaide, where I spent 3 days researching them. But still a fair bit of unknowns about how this team will play.
So just one quick one on Shamar Joseph before we take a break. Pat Cummins will join us shortly. A lot of cricket fans will just remember Shamar for what he did at the Gabba. And even what he did in Adelaide. But he's had a bit of a challenging period since that time. You know, he's been a man in demand. There've been some that have tried to turn him into a white ball player as well, just dealing with the notoriety, all those sorts of things. So it'll be interesting to see how he goes.
Oh, very much. I'm very intrigued. I bumped into him the other day, and we were happy to see each other, and he told me everything that we had bought together during our romantic walk around Rundle Mall.
Right.
The arm
Rebel Sport.
I know, the arm guard that I bought him, which I said he would need to face Stark, and he hit Josh Hazlewood before with it for the first ball he faced in Test cricket. So he's got everything he picked up in Australia. It was just over a year and a half ago. Feels like longer because it meant so much to him. But yeah, injury. He's had 2 IPL seasons where he's barely played. Last year, Darren Sammy wanted him in the T20 team, so they kind of kept him out of the Test team right after the Australia series, which is all resulted in. He's done very little of note since his heroics at the Gabba. So he would be wanting, maybe just watching Australia or playing against Australia is what brings the best out of him. But you'd want that. I think what we are looking for here is someone to produce an inspirational performance so that it brings people in and it makes people of this region feel proud about them.
Yeah, I agree. I agree indeed. All right, we'll take our final break and come back with Pat Cummins. Brett caught up with him earlier today. It is the new ball. And it is thanks to Cobram Estate and also Australia Made. And again, a reminder, we're going to be here in the Caribbean. What are we going to say? Caribbean or Caribbean?
The Caribbean.
The Caribbean for every ball of the 3 Test matches live here with Adam Collins leading the team, along with myself, Bharat, Bryce, and Andrew Mason. 11:30 tonight. It all kicks off Australian Eastern Standard Time. A break. Pat Cummins next.